Kia ora whanau. How are we?
Hi guys.
Haere mai, haere mai. And welcome to another week of Paranormal Podcast. How are we all?
Not underwater, thank God.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty dreadful out there, people. So I hear it's not going to be great for a couple of days. So thoughts to everyone that is kind of getting washed out.
Yeah, the wind here is terrible. Like,
is it?
Yeah, and nearly blowing me over when I went for a walk earlier.
Oh my gosh, no, it's not like that here. It's just really, really, really wet. Very wet. Anyway, enough chit chat. Tonight, we're going to be discussing a topic that kind of now has become an in topic. And that's one of shadow people. So, evening, William. How are you?
Hi, Belle.
So, I guess the first question out of my mouth when we talk about shadow people is, well, this is the $1 million question, is it? What the hell are these things? What are they? Where do they come from? Any ideas?
Well, the simple answer is nobody knows. There are so many things that they could be. Some people believe that they are interdimensional beings. Others think that they may be aliens, visiting aliens. Some people believe they may be ghosts of people who were once alive. The only thing that we definitely know is that they come in many different shapes and sizes and many different forms.
I actually, to be quite honest with you, sorry?
I said, our job is done.
Our job is done. All right. Night, everyone. That's the podcast over for tonight.
No.
No, I actually, you know what? The more I've thought about it, and I do think about this subject quite a lot, the more I actually am leaning towards them being interdimensional beings. And I know that sounds far out and wacky, but that just seems to be what fits with the various case files that are around and reports that are around about shadow people. And I have heard a common theme with regards to these beings, and that is that they like, and this seems to keep reoccurring throughout reports, they disappear into walls.
Well, some do. Some just disappear.
Well,
and others
yeah,
just stand there and stare.
It's a reoccurring theme with them. There's a lot of reports of people saying, and it just disappeared into the wall, or it just walked through the wall. And of course, there are other reports where they just disappear. But there seems to be something about this wall thing, which I find kind of interesting. And then you've also got the specific shadow person of the Hat Man, or should I say the shadow phenomena of the Hat Man. So, I mean, and the other thing too with a lot, and not all of them, but a lot, again, common theme is the sense of foreboding that comes with the shadow person as well, that a lot of people describe. Is that foreboding part of the shadow person, or is it actually part of the individual seeing the shadow person, and that's their own feelings based on what they're actually seeing in front of them?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people are very scared, and I've heard tales of people being very, very scared upon seeing a shadow person. However, other people, they've just felt curious or, no actual feeling at all, maybe a little bit scared. So my thought on that is that perhaps there are a lot of different categories of shadow person. And with each category of shadow person, you have a completely different set of feelings, how, depending on, some claim that they feel that the being is hostile. Others claim that they weren't scared at all, that they were just sort of in wonder of what it was. Other people feel feelings of dread. And as you said before, Tracey, these are reoccurring. It's not just one or two tales. They are repeated time and time again by many people around the globe and by many cultures also.
Do you know the only thing that I don't think I have heard? And I mean, I've been wrong before, and I'm sure I'll be wrong again, but to the best of my recollection, I don't have a memory of reading a case file or a report where more than one person has seen the shadow person at the same time.
I have.
Me too.
Hold on to your hats, all right?
So you've got one of two people or more, multiple people being there, and all of them seeing a shadow person?
Yes.
Okay, I haven't read about anything like that.
3 out of 4 people.
You go first. You go first, Natasha.
Go, Tash.
Okay. At a particular place that has a haunted toilet, if you know. We were doing a communication session at the top of the stairs opposite, and all 3 of us actually saw something in the bathroom that was a black and an outline of a person that was probably a little bit taller than me and kind of looked like a man, but didn't have a hat.
And they don't all have hats.
No, they don't. That's one of the
solid black. Which we all were like, oh, whoa, did you see that? And it was only from all our corners of the eye. That was, when we turned to look, it was gone.
Okay. Now, can I ask Natasha, did you all agree as to what it looked like?
2 of us out of 3 did.
So one person had a different perception of how they saw it?
No, they were kind of like, oh, I'm not sure if I saw it or not.
Okay. Well, I've got a really interesting story for you. And it's actually a story about a member of my family. And he has a young child, 3 years old. And one night he was putting his son to bed, and his son was a little bit settled, and so he was lying in the bed with his son, and his son seemed to keep on being distracted and kind of looking behind where this person where he was lying with his father, and his father sort of looked around and couldn't see anything obvious, and sort of said, no, come on, close your eyes and off to sleep. And then suddenly his son said, Dad, who's that man? And so the father turned around and had a look where his son was pointing, and he could actually see a shadow. He couldn't see any figures or anything to indicate or to make him think that it was a man, but his son wanted to know who the man was. So that's a story about one shadow ghost and 2 very different perceptions as to what was seen.
I'd be interested to know what the son saw, whether or not he saw a man in clothes as opposed to his father just seeing a black shadow.
Yeah, the problem with that is that the boy was a little bit too young to fully explain what he was seeing. It was just, as far as he was concerned, there was a man in the corner.
So that actually brings and this is why I was leading into with that. My next question is,
Can I just say one more thing about that? Another interesting little thing for the end of it. When he mentioned it to his wife said, "Oh, that was probably my father. It was actually his birthday today."
Oh, okay.
So that kind of added a little bit more strength to the story.
So he wasn't a
Right.
shadow man, essentially. We don't know if he was a shadow man or actual apparition.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at here. What was it? Was it
Exactly.
a shadow man or was it an apparition?
It was seen by a very young child who was only old enough to say it was a man. However, the father didn't. All he could see was like a shadow.
So then that brings me to my next question, and that is it just a different perspective on a spirit? Could some people see them as shadow people, and some people see them as full-blown apparitions?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of different perceptions on how people see shadow men or apparitions, and there are so many different factors that can affect how people interpret the sightings. Of course, we've got the psychological factors, whereby stress or anxiety or exhaustion or even sleep paralysis can either create or even distort experiences. A shadow in the corner can suddenly, feel like it's alive, or things like poor lighting or a flickering candle or even a reflective surface can trick the brain into seeing what they think.
Absolutely. It's no different than seeing the dressing gown hanging on the back of your door, or the nightgown, hanging on the back of your door, and your brain waking up and thinking that that's a human standing there.
Yeah.
I wonder if also, this is just a crazy theory, that maybe we see shadow people, which are actually apparitions, but we can't make sense of the apparition because we don't know that person. So maybe the boy was too young to meet the grandfather. So
he would have been.
He didn't know. He just saw an outline of him.
But then that's going to beg the question and then why do some shadow people show themselves as shadow people and other show themselves as full-blown apparitions?
But they might not. They might just be. It might be in the eyes of the seer, because bias is another thing. If you don't believe in ghosts and you just don't believe that there's any kind of shadow figures or anything like that, the chances of you actually seeing anything are remote, because they're always going to be shadows, or you're going to come up with some sort of an explanation.
I'm not so sure about
theory. So over the
hang on a
top
sec, Tash. Just one sec. I just want to answer Barbara there. Actually, I'm not so sure of that, to be quite honest with you. Just because I've lost my train of thought. Sorry. What did you say, Barbara?
I was saying about how basically, our own bias will lead us to see what our brains.
So if you don't believe in the paranormal, you won't see. Actually, I disagree with that, because there are plenty of reports out there with people completely saying they thought the paranormal was utter rubbish, didn't believe in spirits at all, and now they're a believer because they've seen one. So, I beg to differ on that.
Could be, but in the case of shadows, I'm talking shadows. Now, you see a shadow on the wall. Now, if you're a believer, you're going to, look at it and think, oh, that looks like a head, and oh my gosh, that could be someone standing sideways. Whereas if
you were talking about pareidolia, where your brain is trying to figure out what the shadow is.
Yeah. Hi, Kendall.
Hey, Kendall.
So, on my crazy theory, what if it isn't the apparition of the person you think it is? What if it's just a entity that takes on whatever form you're comfortable with. But if you're young or you're in an environment where you're stressed or anxious, like when people go ghost hunting or to a spooky place and see shadow people, they can't resolve something because the spirit or the entity can't transform itself into a form that you're familiar with or comfortable with. So it's just a black blob.
Mm-hmm.
Like
That's
black
not,
mist.
yeah.
Well, where does black mist come from?
Well,
Is
they're
that
a type of shadow. As far as I'm pretty sure they're a type of shadow figure, the black mists, because sometimes they can like transform into a figure, you know,
That's
almost
what I was
like
gonna say.
kaleidoscope out. They start off as a little black mist, and I know Tracey's got a story about this, so I won't steal the story, but they start off as a little cloud or a little, and then kaleidoscope out.
I
Into
think a black
apparition.
mist is the beginning of the formation of a potential shadow person. And I think if it stays as a black mist and then disappears, they obviously don't have the energy to fully manifest into a figure. But what interests me is there a distinction between shadow people and full-blown apparitions, or are we looking at the same thing?
Yeah,
Is
exactly.
a shadow person like the black mist is a precursor to the shadow person? Is the shadow person a precursor to a full-blown apparition? I don't think so, based on the reports that I've read from people seeing shadow people, because they tend to keep manifesting as a shadow person and they don't seem to manifest any further. But in saying that, the black mist is normally seen as a black mist and always ends up morphing into a shadow person or disappears before it does so. But in the locale that, for instance, a building that shadow people are renowned for being seen in, so are black mists. So I think the two are connected in the respect of my personal belief is the black mist is the precursor to a shadow person forming if they have the juice to do so, if you like.
But if you remember last week when I talked about Napier, and I told the story of the staff member who was sitting in the dome and she saw, a small black mist in the doorway, and then it got bigger and bigger and closer to her. And then she basically, maybe she just blacked out, because it was so horrifying to her. But that particular one didn't seem to morph into a shadow person at all.
But
or not.
she didn't know because she blacked out.
It could have been, but yeah. It was just so huge that she couldn't see. But you are right, Tracey. Maybe she didn't see it morph because either she was so terrified or she did just black out over it.
I mean, to be quite honest with you, being in her shoes, I probably would have blacked out myself if it was getting bigger and bigger and coming towards me.
Right in front of you. Yeah. Yeah.
Just because someone's a paranormal investigator doesn't mean that they're made of steel and 10 foot tall and bulletproof. We've still got our own emotions and our own, our own thresholds of what we find terrifying. I'd find that freaking terrifying.
Even if it wasn't, usually I go in my gut. If it's like, you shouldn't be there, I'm like, okay, I'm leaving now.
Yeah. You shouldn't be there, so guess what? I'm not going to be here either, mate. I'm out.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the situation, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think there is something to the black mass. The end result being a shadow person, if it's got the juice, if the person stays around long enough to see it, all those variables brought into it, because it does seem the black mass seems to be present in locales where shadow people are very, very regularly present, if you like.
Maybe they need the energy. So maybe she was tired and she just didn't have the energy to help it manifest. And it just
could have been too. Yeah.
The life out of it.
Exactly.
Maybe no, that can't be right. Not with what I saw anyway. I was going to say maybe the fear gives them the energy to manifest, but the one that I was looking at, no one could see in the room that they were in anyway.
But with your one, Tracey, it was the flashes of the camera that seemed to be feeding it, wasn't it?
No,
maybe-
no, it was only
Okay.
when the camera flashes went off that we could see it.
Yep.
So
Okay.
that's different than
Yeah.
it feeding it. So
Yeah.
it was only actually viewable when those camera flashes were going off like that. The minute if they stopped or if they reduced and they were just 1, 2, 3, I wasn't seeing it. We
Okay.
weren't seeing it. But when they were all flashing like that really quickly and simultaneously, then we were seeing it.
With that, did you notice any battery drain? Or were we talking like a really old camera with phosphorus?
No, I don't remember from memory because this was a long time ago. I don't. What did you say, Tash?
Oh my God.
Well, what did you say?
I said, is it like an old, like a phosphorus one?
It wasn't a really old camera. She's not
then you
such
just-
you're old.
And then you're like, it was a really, really long time ago.
Well, it was a really, really long time ago. But there was actually about 7 cameras in the room, so I couldn't tell you what age every single camera was.
Were they box brownies or?
Are we going to be sensible about this, or are we going to be fuckwits?
So I guess it was a box brownie.
I don't even know what you're talking about. Anyway, to get onto a sensible note on the actual topic, Stephen says his daughter had an encounter with a shadow figure. She woke up one morning and there was a man sitting at the bottom of her bed looking at her. She freaked out and covered her head and lay there. I'm not surprised. When she looked again, he was still there until she ran out of the room.
Did she have sleep paralysis?
Well, she ran out of the room, so I don't think so.
Well, she could have woken up after and then ran out of the room. Because, I have sleep paralysis and I tend to see shadow people. But instead of running away, I run towards them and they disappear. That's the difference. So sometimes people explain shadow people, especially when you're asleep or at night.
Stephen says no, she didn't.
Interesting. I noticed that Kendall before said similar sort of an age too. She said that her daughter did a similar thing. She was about 2.5 at the time, lying down and trying to get to sleep, and then she points behind Kendall and says, "What's his name?" And Kendall didn't look.
I don't blame Kendall.
Paranormal
I
investigator.
really don't blame Kendall.
Oh,
but
no.
your child wasn't afraid of it, so
Well,
I would
that's
have
the
been
thing.
like, oh, is there a man?
I've got a question. I have a question, and it's probably a really good time to say it after Tasha has just said, is there a man? Because I was wondering, the more I think about this, the more strange it is. Why are they always men? Like, you never hear of a shadow person in a dress or having a female form. They're always men.
That's actually a
Ideas?
good point. I can't remember reading about a shadow person being a female.
Never. They're always male.
Or maybe they're like gender neutral until they take their true form. So they're not necessarily men, they're just this entity of filling up space before they get enough energy to manifest as the classic woman in the grey or white dress flowing down the staircase type thing. Or the child out the Victorian sick-looking child on the front lawn of an old house.
Well, no, because normally those white woman, grey woman, red woman are actually normally women that have once lived in the abode that they're seen.
Yeah. And we don't know that these are people who have once lived here.
We don't know what the hell they are.
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
But that's what I mean. They're like an amorphous,
I think
non-living thing.
I think the distinction has to be made that a shadow person is very different than a full-blown apparition at this stage, as we know right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
We're talking about two kind of different beings.
But
Just a
are
theory.
we every time?
It's just a theory.
Well, we don't know. That's it. We don't know. Everything's just freaking pie in the sky when it comes to the paranormal, doesn't it? But
some things are more pie in the sky than others.
Yeah.
Well, based on what? It ain't based on proof or evidence because there isn't any. So everything is pie in the sky.
Could it not be like paranormal as in spirit, but paranormal as aliens?
Well, that's another thing because shadow people have been linked to aliens, haven't they? And there's been people that have said that they've had shadow people in their home and they've been abducted by aliens.
Yeah.
So is there a link between them?
The classic alien cases where there's the men in black with the hats.
Yes, yeah, because of course a lot of people. Well, there are reports of the Hat Man, and he usually wears the hat, the classic hat, but also sometimes a trench coat, and other times seems to wear one of those old-fashioned business suits.
Yeah.
You know, men in black.
And the other one is that they also seen in a coat. And the Hat Man, there's two different types of hats that he wears. One's a fedora and one's a top hat.
A top hat, yeah.
So
is that because they are from maybe two different eras?
Yeah, maybe it's just different versions of different things.
Oh, Stephen, I haven't heard of that theory.
There's a thought.
Yeah, we'll pop it up. If you're stressed, you can. Well, I can talk about being stressed after not sleeping for like a week and working on a project at university with several other people. We did group work. We all saw the strange thing out the corner of our eyes at the same time. So we had like what they call it, the French word, folie à deux, which is madness of two. We all saw it because we were all tired, all wired on caffeine and sugar, and working throughout the night on these projects together because we didn't have any other time to do it. And we all saw the same thing. We all ran after it, and we couldn't figure out what it was.
Although, were you all just more susceptible to seeing something paranormal?
Because we're just tired, and
because you were all in a tired and stressed state of mind.
Yeah,
it'd be strange for all of you to have the same stress type hallucination.
Yeah,
it's very odd. Because we were alone, we had security cards to get in. There was nobody else around. There was about 10 of us in several different groups, 12 of us. There was like 3 groups of 4. It was very odd. Like, I can't even remember what it was, but we all turned around to each other like, did you see that? Like, did you see that? And then we're like, yes, what was that? I'm like,
and did you all see the same thing?
Well, it appears we did because we were looking at the same side of the room going, what was that?
No, that doesn't mean you saw the same thing though.
Yeah, well, I can't remember what we described it as, but we seemed to be all on the same page. It was something very small. It wasn't like a shell person.
That's
very
interesting.
weird.
That's really interesting. But I wonder whether, because you were all tired and stressed, whether you all were just so much more susceptible to being open to having a paranormal experience rather than just
a mass hallucination, basically, is what you're
but not a mass
it as.
hallucination like that. Like, not everyone seeing basically the same thing. I mean, if they were all just really stressed, I mean, one could have seen a tiger, and then another person could have seen the apparition of a little girl, and someone else could have seen a shadow. Someone else might have seen a mist. But for them all to see basically the same thing, I can't help but think that perhaps they were just due to their psychological bent at the time, that they saw something.
None of us literally had slept for a week.
I mean, the point is that people have seen the Virgin Mary, or God knows whoever it is, at Lourdes as well, haven't there? And there's been 400 people have seen exactly the same thing. So yeah, to my mind, that's a whole bunch of people saying the same thing, saying that they've seen the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a mass hallucination.
But the difference between us and Lourdes is that we didn't have like the history. Like, we weren't told that there was this little thing that was running around the lab that we were working in. Like, there wasn't publicity or anything. Like, we all just sort of synced and saw this thing.
The common denominator was that you were all tired and you were all stressed. But for you guys to describe it the same actually would suggest to me that you actually did see something. Yeah. And as Barbara said, maybe because you were in that tired, stressed state, that opened you up to the ability to be able to see something.
Perhaps.
That's exactly what I think.
Very odd.
So, but whether or not a shadow man is linked to depression and mental health,
maybe.
Are you meaning, Stephen, in respect of it's a paranormal manifestation of someone that's suffering from depression and mental health, or that it is a internal manifestation of that individual that's suffering from depression and mental health? Because it could be either or. But a lot of the cases do actually allude to the fact that individuals have been under stress when they have seen these shadow figures and repeatedly seen these shadow figures. So I would factor stress to be a byproduct or to accompany the phenomena of shadow people. But I don't know about depression and mental health. Although I've known some pretty mental people that have said they've seen shadow people. I've also heard some pretty very sane people that have said they've seen shadow people as well. So
yeah, I guess it depends. It could, some of them could be mental health, whereas a projection of all the bad stuff that's happening at the time or whatever. So internally we're projecting it outwards.
I personally think that there is a definite link between mental health and paranormal experiences. Now, I'm not actually saying that there is that if you have poor mental health or a mental health problem, you're not having paranormal experiences, but there does seem to be a link between the two. And I'm sure that some people with mental health problems do have real paranormal experiences, but some not so much.
You know what, Stephen? I wouldn't want to actually make any links between shadow people and depression and mental health, because I am not a mental health qualified individual. So I wouldn't want to even go there. All that I have noticed is that there seems to be a link to do with stress.
I absolutely agree with Tracey there. We are not mental health professionals, and our opinion is only our opinion. We don't have any medical knowledge or experience. So.
And I'm not actually, because I don't have any qualifications. I do have some training, but because I don't have any qualifications in mental health advocacy or anything remotely like that, I'm not actually even prepared to make an opinion on that, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, we weren't there, so we don't know the circumstances. And even if
it's not even that, it's just that I don't have a qualification in mental health.
That's what I'm saying. Even if you did have the qualifications, you don't know the circumstances, so you can't really say whether it's a coincidence or if it was caused. It's just
again, I'd only be able to go off case files, which is exactly what I'm doing as a paranormal investigator, going off previous case files that other people have reported and they've been documented, and that's all that we can do.
What about another weird theory?
What's that?
Not a weird one, but it's yourself from another dimension.
Nah, because how do females see male shadow figures then?
Maybe there's not enough energy to manifest between the two. You can only see.
Because if you're a male, you're a male, and if you're a female, you're a female. So
not these days.
Yeah, let's not even. Please don't.
What I mean, what if you needed the energy to manifest yourself as yourself through the, you can only see a certain amount of.
Nah.
I actually don't know about this, because I believe that there could be some merit to that, because our essence is neither male nor female.
But why would you want to frighten the shit out of yourself?
Maybe it's not on purpose. Maybe it's like a timeline glitch or a wormhole or something. You're running in parallel and they somehow connect and they're not supposed to.
It's a possibility.
Who knows? Like, seriously, who knows?
Yeah. I mean, we're just chucking mud at the wall and seeing if it sticks, right?
Picking things around tonight, because of course nobody knows. And that's what's so difficult about this particular field, because shadow figures, okay? Shadow figures, because we don't know that they're people. I mean, and they come in so many different forms. But they, as a paranormal investigator, they are incredibly difficult to capture. And we can, as a result, we can only really go on people's recounts of what they've seen. And people's recounts are quite often not quite as things happen. So the evidence that we are being given is basically just what people recall. There's no
which is notoriously unreliable.
Absolutely. And there's no consistent physical evidence that we can investigate. So it's just so difficult. It's probably the most difficult area for an investigator to try and even start to formulate theories, start to try and come up with experiments to try and get some form of, for want of a better word, evidence that there. Look at Tracey; she's folded her arms. Sorry, Tracey. Evidence that they exist.
You said evidence. You triggered Tracey with evidence. But I agree with you to a certain extent. Like, it's been proven. In the olden days, I don't know if you remember, Tracey, but when the police would get eyewitnesses, when the eyewitnesses would do sketches of people who commit crimes, and then you look at what the person actually looked like, say serial killers they caught, now because of genealogy and DNA, they don't look like their sketches because it's a combination of stress and what the person sees. And with cold cases, it's been proven that the eyewitnesses, their memory would warp and change over the years. Like they'd think, I remember this exactly as it happened yesterday, but it's really like, no, you don't.
Trust me, it's been proven that interviewing someone 24 hours after a criminal event and they have already lost details and mixed details up, and that is a fact.
And they used to convict people on this.
Yeah.
It wasn't until they did DNA and they had like circumstantial evidence that they can now convict people, because you can't go, like the whole Innocent Project is based on people who are convicted, who are innocent, but were basically convicted by eyewitnesses.
I mean, I know that we all do interviews with our clients and people and historical places and reports that we've heard of this person saw that and this person saw this, and we go and interview them about what they've seen. But really those interviews are about as much use as someone saying that they've had a personal experience. And which is not fact, it's not evidence, and it's not proof. And witness statements are exactly the same. They're notoriously unreliable, and the police will tell you this.
Yep.
No different in the paranormal.
No.
If anything, it's probably a little bit worse with the paranormal, because it turns into almost at times like Chinese whispers, you know. If you hear the same story told 6 times, every time there's a little bit extra added or a little bit more intrigue. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's even worse with the paranormal to actually get the truth. The actual truth of what happened, because so many people just change it a little bit, and then by the time it's changed 3 times, the story's rubbish.
It's not only changed, details are omitted, details morph into something else. And then there's new details that all of a sudden arrive that were never spoken about in the first interview. Because they've remembered something since then, you know?
I've seen this for a paranormal team where they thought they had been told that children were in the house, but even though they had experienced something that was more threatening, like of a male of nature, follow them in certain parts of the building, that would suggest that there isn't children there. It's just because the owner of the building perpetuated that myth, or someone said, children, blah, 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 that sort of thing. This is an interesting one. It's not from Jessica, which is not a shadow person, but so basically they're driving on a country road and it was raining, and they saw a young girl, this is her grandfather, and they picked up the little girl and she was really quiet. And then when they started to talk more, she was gone, which is also the same MO as the cryptid as the goat man. That's
we're talking now. We're getting into Phantom Hitchhiker realm.
Yeah. So it's not people related, or is it if they just disappear like a shadow person?
Well, that's considered to be a different phenomena.
It is.
It's experienced quite heavily in the UK. There's a lot of stretcher roads that have phantom hitchhikers in the UK.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably one of the stories that we will probably talk about when we get Jim Birchall on talking about the village of Rougham in the UK, because that's one of the stories of one of the roads around there, that a taxi driver had picked up a passenger who just disappeared. So that's not an unknown activity, Jessica. So it does happen.
Absolutely.
Again, it's worldwide, but the interesting about it is it tends to be a good omen. Anyone who doesn't pick up that person, whether it be a man or a little girl or whoever, the way that the urban legend goes is they end up in a horrible accident and they die.
Oh, well, there you go.
Depends on what urban legend you're listening to, because I've heard quite a few tales of the guy didn't pick the phantom hitchhiker up, and then guess what? Another 2 miles down the track, there's the chick waiting there again. Exactly the same person, exactly the same clothes. And then after that fact, there was absolutely no way they were going to pick them up.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Maybe we need to do maybe we need to do a podcast on that, phantom hitchhikers.
There's so many tales of them. It's really interesting.
Exactly.
Really interesting.
I also noticed that William Scott has said, I used to work with a gentleman whose brother sadly took his own life. He used to say he would wake up and would notice a man kneeling at the base of his bed. This happened for months. He said, he also did not know who it was. So was that a shadow, William? Or was it an apparition?
Did he not know it because it was just a solid black mass of a man, or was it actually a man, like an apparition? Or don't you know?
While William's writing that, the other thing that keeps cropping up as well is that there doesn't seem to be any facial features on shadow people.
No, they're just a solid
black mass. Just a black mass.
I have seen accounts of glowing red eyes, and that's always accompanied with a feeling of hostility.
Yes.
So there is that. It is just no features, but there are some of them with glowing red eyes, which I think would be absolutely terrifying.
Yeah. So do I.
So I think there are just so many different types, that I personally don't know if they're all the same. Whether they are, maybe some are actually apparitions, maybe some are interdimensional travelers. As we said, maybe some are aliens, maybe some are just glitches. And because I was thinking about shadows and where they come from, and I went down this whole big rabbit hole about, light and, hitting something and leaving a shadow. And unfortunately, I thought of that. Well, I was thinking about it about 4 a.m. this morning and ended up with black holes in the universe. Couldn't go back to sleep. But when I'm thinking about it's like, and this might sound really ridiculous, okay? But are they spirits who, and there are lots of holes in this, okay, all right? Are they spirits who literally are coming out of the light, and the light behind them is causing a shadow that we can see? We can't see the spirit, but we can see the shadow. Just like a thought.
Well, I mean, we're talking about shadows, and light plays a part with shadows. So why couldn't light play a part with shadow people?
It was just, it's like, well, if they're coming out from the light and the light is behind them, then it was a black mass in the outline of a human, William. So if they're coming out of the light, and then the light's behind them, it will cause a shadow.
But most people see them at nighttime. I don't know of any accounts where you've seen them.
I've seen one.
No, not at all. They're seen a hell of a lot during the day.
I just say that I've never seen one during the day. I've only seen a couple at night. Like I've had.
Can I tell a really nice story about a daytime one? I'm going to anyway. So, okay.
No.
So my brother. Okay. So, no, sorry, I didn't. Oh, sorry.
What?
A person I know was watching TV one day, and suddenly became aware of a figure. They have a sunken lounge with 3 steps down, and he suddenly became aware of a figure at the top of his stairs, at the top of the 3rd stair. And as some of you know, no, actually, I won't say that. He had recently had a bereavement, and he felt strongly that this particular figure was the person who had passed away. Now, could one of you? I've actually got a picture that is ready to put up, because this person is quite a good artist, and he drew what he saw. So that's what he said. He said it was like it was like someone had drawn a person with a charcoal pencil and then smudged it. So that's what it looked like. Now, so that he believes that it was the person who had recently passed away. And so if that's the case, that's what made me think, well, maybe if someone comes out of the light, then they may cast a shadow. And this was through the day, Natasha. This is what made me tell the story, because this happened through the day. So it was quite a pale shadow. It wasn't a dark shadow, and it just stood there. And then this person who saw it spoke to it, asked it if it was the person who had just passed, and after a few seconds, it just dissipated. So that's a shadow figure that was seen through the day.
Wow. Well, I actually, that being brought up and said that there was something that you said that triggered something for me there, Barbara. You said it wasn't very dark.
Yes.
So now we're into shadow people versus not very dark ones to absolute shadow people that have been described as solid black, totally. Can't see through it.
Yeah.
I felt like if I reached out and touched it, there would be mess there. It was that dark.
Yeah.
So we're also now talking about different shades of shadow people.
Yeah. Well, some apparently are quite smoky or wispy.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And then I've seen the one that I saw, which had hundreds and hundreds of tiny, tiny little pinpricks of white light, but it was on a grey background, if you like, and that was a very distinguishable feature, figure. It was a figure of a person. Head, shoulders, arms, legs, feet, hands, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
I have a story about one where I was investigating. It was quite a few years ago. When I lived on the North Shore, a dog had gone missing, and I decided that I would go and look for it. And it was quite an isolated path around the headland, and there was like an inlet sea river that it winds around, and the only light that you had was from houses that backed onto it. And I remember like walking around, and I got to a particular spot, and I know this track very well because I used to run it, and I used to live in the area. And I walked past it, and then I turned around, and there was a solid black mass I'd say about 10 meters from me. And the only reason I could see it was there was bamboo, like really tall bamboo, but it was a solid black mass. It didn't have a hat. And I suddenly got a feeling of, oh, I better go. I just continued walking on my way. And then when I looked over my shoulder, it was gone. So I was looking straight at it. So it wasn't one that was in the corner of eye, which is quite common. It was like, the best way to describe it was just, an outline of a person. It could have been male or female, just like an outline of the body. And then because I was looking at it straight on, I couldn't see any other features. It's almost like they were flat. They're just like you cut out a person.
So they were non-dimensional then?
No, yeah. And then, the best way to describe it is it's the blackest black I've ever seen. Like
Yeah,
Vanta black. If you know about pigments and stuff, just Google Vanta black, and they've got certain shades of it that absorbs all of the light pretty much. So it's just, you think our background is black, but when you compare it to Vanta black, it's really, 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 it's darker black, the best way to describe it. But yeah, unfortunately I didn't find the dog. But yeah, that was a very weird experience. And I was by myself, so no one else would have seen it.
Wow. Yeah. I think they do come in varying shades, because I've seen one, once again, it was through daylight. It wasn't black, but it was kind of like a light black. And it actually, I caught it out of the corner of my eye in the dining room of the house that we were in at the time. And by the time, and I saw it, could see it in my peripheral vision the whole time. So I caught it in my peripheral vision, and then by the time I turned my head, it was gone, but I had it in my peripheral vision long enough to see it literally move so quickly and into the wall. And it was huge. It was absolutely massive. It was taller than a doorway and bigger than a doorway. And I never saw it again. We lived in that house for maybe 8 or 9 years, and I only ever saw that once. But yeah, that was another that was through in broad daylight.
Excuse me, I'm just going to rock up my dog.
So that was a shadow figure, a black mass in the outline of a human that was seen many times. That would be, honestly, a paranormal investigator's dream.
Mm-hmm.
If someone said to me that they were having a shadow figure arrive at the end of their bed every night, I swear I'd be there.
Because both you and I, like, we've only seen it once, and it's a familiar place that we've visited multiple times.
Yeah.
But never saw it again.
Yeah.
Ever.
And so to have this happen, for months, every night for months would be, honestly, if anyone's listening to this and they have this sort of thing happen every night for months, let us know, please, because we'll be there in a flash.
With cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And video. We don't mind if you snore.
Yeah.
I think we've come to the conclusion with discussing everything. I think we've arrived at a point where it's safe to say that there are different flavors of shadow people. There are different brands of shadow people.
Even their behaviors.
Based on how they're actually manifesting.
Exactly. But even their behaviors are different. I mean, some will just stand there and stare. Others peek around corners.
Others, as soon as they realise you've seen them, dap it.
Yeah, exactly. And others are just out there. I'm standing here, and if you don't like me here, you know.
And then we've got the ones that are blacker than black. And then we've got the ones that are slightly transparent, and then we've got the ones that are slightly grey.
Yeah. And then we've got the masses, the black masses, which sometimes are just black masses, and other times seem to almost telescope out into a full-blown figure, humanoid figure. You also get have you guys heard of like animal ones, like just like small cats or dogs, and only briefly seen, but
I've never seen a shadow cat or a shadow dog. I've just seen the apparition of a shadow cat
okay, I've seen
or a shadow
few
dog.
accounts of small shadows. Not, I mean, maybe not even necessarily a cat or a dog, but just small and close to the ground.
So yeah,
I guess the assumption is that they're small animals.
with reference to shadow people, there's different varieties of people, different coloured skin, different ethnicities, and all that. So why wouldn't there be different shadow-based beings, whether it be a person or a cat or a dog?
Yep.
I haven't heard of a shadow horse, but I could be wrong. But yeah,
the connection or the perceived connection that shadow people seem to have with regards to UFOs or aliens. I was going to say beings from another world, but what I'm thinking here is discussing the fact that shadow people potentially come from another dimension. UFOs potentially come from another world, effectively, don't they? So could it possibly be that the UFOs that come from another world and the shadow people that potentially come from another dimension are using the same means to transport into ours?
Could be. It really could be. I mean, that's the problem, isn't it? We just have no idea. We can come up with guesses, we can draw conclusions, but who knows?
I think would be pretty crazy to draw any conclusions because there's just too many variables in this.
We can try and draw. But I mean, that's part of being that's what scientific method is, isn't it? I mean, as paranormal investigators, you try and draw conclusions, you try and, come up with a theory, and then you've got to think of an experiment that might, back up what or prove or disprove part of what you may believe.
Well, I don't know that with investigating, I don't think it's an investigator's job to come up with a theory. I think it's an investigator's job to eliminate any variables that they can and then see what they're left with, rather than come to any definitive conclusions.
From a scientific point of view, you'd have to have some sort of hypothesis or some sort of theory to eliminate. So you can tick off the boxes and say, okay, it wasn't this, blah, blah, blah. But you set up the experiment in such a way that you try and control the environment as best you can. But you can you have to have some reason to be looking for what you're looking for. Whether it's, I think it is this, and then it's like, no, it can't be that. The experiment basically failed. You have to go through.
You do that via elimination, don't you? So if you're getting banging noises, you get a plumber in to check pipes. You make sure there's no guttering on the outside of the house that could possibly be responsible for it. You check out all those means before you actually start looking at it being a paranormal event. So I think that's what I was trying to say.
You're saying that it's elimination, but you are theorizing that it's not paranormal first and removing all the other.
No, you're not. You're not theorizing anything. You're looking and you're trying to ascertain if there is any mundane reasons for it. So that's why I'm saying it's not our job to draw conclusions. It's our job to go through elimination and an elimination process.
Which I agree with you, which is what I'm saying. You have a hypothesis from somebody that thinks it's paranormal, and you're going through and you're eliminating all possible factors that is not paranormal, because we can see, we can touch it, we can measure it. Whereas with the paranormal, we can't we don't know if we can, measure
we don't know how to.
It. So you have a hypothesis from whoever invited you in that it's some, poltergeist or whatever. But then you go through the logical steps to make sure that it's not A or B, it could be C.
Well, I don't know if you have an hypothesis from somebody. I think you have an opinion from somebody or a belief from somebody that it's paranormal, but I don't think that's necessarily can be termed as a hypothesis.
That's how hypotheses are. It's an idea, it's a theory, and you test the theory.
Yeah, but they haven't tested the theory at that point. That's what I'm saying. So when they're coming to you,
we do.
Okay, so what I'm saying is when they are coming to you with you said a hypothesis, they don't have one. They have an opinion or they have a belief. The hypotheses can't be tested until we get to the experimentation stage. And the person that's coming to you saying, I've got a poltergeist, hasn't done that.
That's what I mean. That's why they call it.
Yeah. That's what the paranormal investigators do. I mean, we go in, we can eliminate what we can, but then we use scientific method, and by that we after we've eliminated what we can, we form a hypothesis and then formulate a way to test it.
And we come out with what?
Well, usually if we can eliminate all the environmental factors, like you mentioned pipes that makes noises and stuff and maybe bangs against the wall.
Yep.
We can eliminate that as being paranormal and said, hey, have you had any experiences anywhere else apart from that? And if they say yes, then we'll start the experiment again. But I mean, it's just like actual science. Like when people were first trying to describe magnetic fields, you could only see the effect. You couldn't actually measure it at the time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until they came up with devices that they could measure it.
Which is pretty much the position that we're in today.
It's
even with all these fantastic devices.
It's like shadow people. Like how do we measure or quantify that they actually exist apart from accounts and hypotheses or theories that we have of what they are?
Has anyone ever, I mean, the thing is, I've seen photos of shadow people before, but how do we know that they're not faked? I mean, I just saw one a couple of days ago, actually. And I was going to put it up, and then I thought, no, because I'm pretty much damn near sure this is faked. But only because of where it was actually captured as well, 30 East Drive, which I believe to be one of the biggest fakey haunt places that there is, apart from the Conjuring House. But I think that has anybody that anyone is aware of that has stood up to any scrutiny at all, whether that be photographic or video evidence of a shadow person?
I have. I've got a video.
Have you?
Yes.
Cool.
We were doing an investigation, and there was only 3 of us, so it wasn't like it was very controlled. And at this particular business, they had complained that one of the complaints was that there were shadows that were seen, and I accidentally videoed what looks to be a shadow. I thought I had stopped my camera, and I put it down, and you see my legs walk past. I've told you about this. You see my legs walk past, and then like 2 or 3 seconds later, see these black legs walking past, like maybe something was following me. I'll hunt it out for you.
Yeah, please do. That'd be really cool to see that.
Yeah.
I have an opposite story where someone showed us a photo of a house during a public event somewhere. And one of the people we were with was adamant that it was a shadow person in the window. But I was debating with them because I'm like, did anyone capture any photos inside? And they were adamant that it was still, like the person that took the photo was the person's relative that owned the house. My question was, because they were adamant, I know my grandmother's house or whoever's house it is. I know what is in there. And I'm like, but this is not that house anymore. This could be filled with lots of historical stuff. It could have been a coat rack. It could have been a dressing gown or something that was hung near the window. It could have been a curtain.
Absolutely.
But the issue I had was this person was adamant, I know this area and I know this house, which is automatic bias. When I asked the person who took the photo, did you take any at the time of the inside? They said no. So it's like, you can't say that is a true
and
shadow
we get
person.
so much, don't we, that people are so determined that they've got a ghost or a shadow person or whatever, and they won't listen to common sense,
Reason.
I know that this is a ghost, and it's like, you can't know that,
No, and you don't know that. You believe that. That's your opinion, but you cannot know that beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Exactly.
And anything that's got windows in it, Tash, to be quite honest with you, as soon as someone says, look what I caught in this window, I'm like, yeah, sorry, no. You've got exactly what you said, Tash, what's inside to contend with. And then you've also got what's outside being reflected into the window. So you've got two different areas where you could possibly be just looking at a simple case of pareidolia and mistaking for something that is quite natural.
I did comment on a post about that recently, and within the last week. I did ask the question, did you go inside and take photos to see if it was something in the window, whether it be a curtain, whether it be light from the door being ajar or whatnot, because our brains are wired to see humans and faces.
Absolutely, to make sense out of patterns, basically.
It's our evolutionary development. So whether you see predators or you see friends, so it's a primal instinct to your brain to make sense of the world, and if it doesn't make sense, then
the brain will make sense of it for you.
Yeah, they'll try and develop some sort of image or photo, because 99% of what we see, we don't see. It's filled in by the brain.
And it's unfortunate, because I think this is where that, unfortunately, the field today as it stands is an absolute abortion, because of people like this who are taking photos, putting it out there and saying, I caught a ghost. Hobbyists and enthusiasts who are wanting to believe desperately and are play acting at being investigators. And just because you want it to be so doesn't make it so.
Like in my experience about the spooky bathroom, we all went to the bathroom. We all looked if there was any sort of lights or any like headlights or anything that would make that shape, anything in the doorway which would make that shape. We took photos. We even tried to shine a light in from outside, like a bright light, to see if we could see it again, and we couldn't. We couldn't replicate what we all saw in that bathroom. And I had some weird recordings on my, luckily, again, I know where to put my stuff for some reason. I put my voice recorders. I had two different voice recorders, and they both recorded something very odd, like a very odd EVP. And it wasn't like a talking one. It sounded like breathing.
Wow.
That's the way to describe it. And one of them malfunctioned. But it had two in two different places of the bathroom. So I can't explain what that is, but obviously there was something there, and then there wasn't something there. It just had gone.
Which is kind of like trying. I mean, I think if we're talking about trying to capture shadow people, I think that we're trying to basically capture a speck of
water in your hands.
Yeah, literally.
Very elusive. Something I did just think of though while listening to Natasha was it's like shadow figures have their own set of their own set of rules almost. Like you never hear of them any sounds around them. You never hear, there's no footsteps, there's no breathing, there's no voice, there's no EVPs captured, they don't open and close doors, so you don't hear that. There's no noise.
I have heard of a lot of cases that have got footsteps with shadow people, well as poltergeist activity with shadow people. Yep.
Yes,
so it actually can just be shadow people, or it can be shadow people plus other phenomena that's occurring within the building. There doesn't seem to be any hard and fast rules.
I mean, we were less than 10 meters away and we couldn't hear anything. It was just weird that I had a malfunction of one of my pieces of equipment, but both of them did capture what sound like heavy breathing. So maybe they do communicate with us, but in a frequency that we can't hear. Or it's an energy-based thing. They can only project a certain distance. So unless they're like right on top of you, you won't hear anything. But if you've heard footsteps, then that's, again, it could be different varieties of them. Some of them have different energies where they can try and communicate, and then also you can hear them walking around.
But that also doesn't mean to say that just because you've got a shadow person that you don't have another form of
another entity.
Another
being of some kind.
I do believe there are very many categories of shadow person, and I just don't know, honestly. Are they all interdimensional, but they come from different dimensions, or
maybe they just use the same means of getting in? So maybe if a shadow person is getting in, for instance, through a vortex or a portal, then you've got a spirit coming in through that portal, and you've got Mr. Alien dude from Mars coming in through that portal.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Tracey. Maybe it is something like that.
That's what I said earlier. Maybe they're using the same means of gaining access to our realm as each other.
And maybe that's where people, how you have cases where people just disappear into thin air. Maybe it goes both ways. These people, how terrifying would that be? You're on a walk, and you chase your dog, and then you manage to go through a portal and end up in this alternative dimension where everyone is shadows.
That's interesting. That's interesting that you brought that up, because about the 411 or 411 people.
Yes.
There's been several accounts of people who've been missing for days, and they've been calling out to people that they've seen walking through the forest or wherever they are, not shadow people necessarily, and they completely ignore them. So maybe they have gone, to the other alternative place, but they're kind of in between.
Well, let's look at a prime example of Skinwalker Ranch. Apparently, a vortex or a portal is actually in that area. Not only have they seen skinwalkers and dogmen and UFOs, they've had poltergeist activity. They've even seen something like out of the Predator movies, stepping out from and shimmering.
Well,
and then stepping back in to the whatever portal it came through and shimmering before it disappeared. They've got the whole plethora going on of paranormal activity at Skinwalker Ranch, and behind it all is supposedly a portal that somebody has actually witnessed. Some people have witnessed.
Now, it's interesting.
And you've got all these different beings using it to access our realm.
Now, excuse me, folks, who this may be way too out there for some people, but I have been told, if you can imagine it, anything you can imagine, any being you can imagine. Okay, everyone, imagine a being now. Okay, you got it? Now, that being exists in another dimension. Sorry if I'm too far out there for folks for that
That's
one.
not out there. One of my occult teachers actually went through that with the whole class. Years, decades, and decades.
Oh yeah, but I'm just saying for the people, you know,
that's what we were told. Mickey Mouse is alive in another realm because he was thought of in this one.
Yeah. So you're talking about manifestation. You can manifest something else in another parallel or adjacent dimension or world or whatever you want to call it.
But it takes a lot of energy. It would take more than one person to do it unless they were very, very well versed at creating thought forms. But when you've got like hundreds, thousands, or as Barbara was saying, like hundreds of thousands of people thinking of the same thing, then that's very, very easy to manifest somewhere else. It's certainly on the astral realm, it's really easy to manifest when there is a mass amount of power going behind that thought suggestion.
So if we go with the portal effect, so surely if we can manifest things in their environment, theorizing that they're in a different plane of existence, can they do the same thing with us? Is that what they're manifesting in our world or our environment?
Say that again.
Yeah.
So if we're in parallel universes or timelines or whatnot, if we can manifest in their world, can they manifest in our world? And
they already are manifesting in our world. That's But what
I'm saying. Is that what shadow people are?
Right. You said it the other way around. You said if we manifest in their world, can they manifest in our world? Correct. Are you meaning they're already manifesting in our world if they're using a portal, for instance? So can we use that portal to manifest in their world? Definitely.
So I'm saying
definitely.
But it was interesting if we go back to Skinwalker Ranch and you're talking about Predator. Predator, you said that it was like shimmering and stuff. So if you go by Predators, the movie and things like that, that is a form of camouflage. So maybe they don't
as it manifested, it shimmered, and then it got a solid form, and then as it went back just before it disappeared, it shimmered again. So that's what they were saying was that shimmer wasn't passing through the doorway, the opening, the portal, the vortex.
What if the shadow people are here all the time, but they're camouflaged? So that makes them look like they walk through walls and stuff.
That's a possibility. I don't see why that couldn't be a possibility either.
I mean, that's a theory for Bigfoot and skinwalkers and all that they're around all the time, but they only let themselves known or shown, kind of like shadow people, because you only see them briefly and they're kind of like, well, sometimes you only see them briefly and they're like, oh, and then they just disappear and they look like they disappear into mist or a wall or whatever.
Apart from the ones that just stand there and eyeball you.
That's the one I've met, which is kind of interesting because it was the same time that my great aunt was in hospital and we thought she was going to die, but she didn't die that time. So it was very odd. It seems to occur with stressful events, I guess.
Well, there was several decades ago the thought that shadow people, because they're not a modern phenomena, we just hear about them a lot more now, but it was thought, or there was a school of thought, that the shadow figure or the shadow person was the actual soul of somebody who was passing through this life into the next life. I kind of find that a little bit flouncy, because there's nothing, there's even no thought behind that to suggest that that's the way it is. I haven't heard anything to suggest that would be the way it would be. When we've discussed more tonight, and I've heard more tonight about possibilities, because we've chucked all the mud at the wall just to see what's going to stick, to try and come to some sort of consensus
Yeah.
on what the hell these things are, where the hell do they come from. And I think that we have actually come to the conclusion that there are definitely different types, flavors of shadow people, and they come with different feelings, because some people, as we've said, are scared, some people aren't. They come in different density. Shades. Some are fairly transparent, some are very light, some are grey, some are blacker than black can be, and suggest pretty much a mass, that there's a mass behind them because they are so black. So I think that they
come from different places. I do believe that they probably do come from different places.
Or are they, as Natasha said, camouflaged while they're here, and they just the camouflage drops all of a sudden and then it goes up again? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, a lot can be said. They've got a few things in common with skinwalkers. They've got a few things in common with Bigfoot. And one of the things is the ability to freaking disappear in a flash, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, maybe we're asking the wrong questions. What are they? Why are they here?
That's the second question I want to know. First of all, no, that's the third question. I want to know, what are they? Where do they come from? And my third question is, why are they here? Are there portals, doors to another realm? Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I think there are too, Jess.
In my experience, yes.
Yeah.
There are definitely doors to other realms. We'd have to be, and we are, but we'd have to be a pretty egotistical species to think that out of all the planets that there are and all the realms that there could possibly be, that the only one that's real is ours.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Same theory with intelligent life.
Absolutely.
So is it a time slip? Is it a portal, or is it you could say aliens, or it's a different type of being visiting us, or has been here forever? We just for some reason can't see them all the time.
I don't know. I think they slip in and they slip out. I really do think they slip in and they slip out. Here we go. Tony. Always like Tony's comments. Oh, why does it get touched? Billions of various radio waves. Unfortunately, VHF, UHF, shortwave, cell, or whatever colliding to form visions by coincidence, by number of similarity.
Well, that does have some merit, because it is radiation. It is radiation.
Yes, it
different types of wavelengths. So I know you're not supposed to have a multiple amount of MRIs for certain reasons. Even X-rays for obvious reasons. But who's to say that this is no product of you being really run down or stressed or anxious? And electromagnetic radiation is messing with you.
It does absolutely contain merit, but then I've got to harken back to how long have we had VHF, UHF, shortwave cells, and whatever radio waves? Because ghosts are even mentioned in the Bible. Ghosts are mentioned back in history, right back to 1200 BCE. So,
I have a theory for that. Different magnetic strengths of the Earth. Natural radiation from radon and granite. Things like that.
Possibly.
Even solar flare from the sun.
Solar flare from the sun, very definitely.
So that could explain why people from ancient times, like from the Bible, or even beyond that, like cave people, Neanderthals and all that, experience different things in different areas. But I mean, you know, it's sort of like the wow signal. Like, where did that come from?
Tony, in other words, 6 trillion frequency, all transmitting a picture of a child. I would have to think more on that. I would like to think more on that, actually, because there's definitely some merit in that, just as there is merit in what Tash said. And believe it or not, there is some scientific fact behind solar waves producing more reports of spirit sightings or UFO sightings, or all sorts of things.
Is that because of the light frequency? Is it, you know, like we were talking the other week about visible light, you know,
Yes.
and at the end of the either end of the frequency, we've got other lights that we can't see. Now, is that because we just are not seeing it? That these things are, you know, and it's only when you know, we're at one end of the frequency that we can see other lights. And that's
so. Are you saying that, just for argument's sake, that something would present itself in the X-ray light spectrum, but we wouldn't be able to see it until it moved into another light spectrum? Yeah. Yes. That we can perceive. Right.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And there's merit in that too.
And that goes back to what we were saying, was it last week, about how, you know, cats and dogs can seem to be able to see spirits, you know, and that's the similar sort of thing. At different frequencies, you know,
because they see in different light spectrums.
Just because we can't see that particular light spectrum doesn't mean there's nothing in it.
That's right, absolutely.
What if it's even more crazy? Like, we have only been able to detect that, you know, there's X-rays and gamma rays at one end, and then there's IR or you know, on the other end. Yep. What if there's other frequencies either side of that we are not aware of, because we have no way to detect it, because we've been told this is one end, high energy, low wavelength, and this one is low energy, high wavelength. What if there is something in between that dogs and cats can see, or outside of that we haven't been able to detect because nobody is looking for it, nobody knows how to capture it or detect it, but it exists. I mean, they're finding new subatomic particles all the time, so we obviously don't know anything about everything. So that could suggest that part of, like Barbara's theory, there is enough energy to shift them into the visible light spectrum. Like, you need to give them energy to show up of some type, whether it's solar radiation, or if it's, you know, even maybe when you're really, really tired, we can actually see those spectrums, which sounds crazy. But if no one's actually tested that,
it doesn't sound crazy, actually, Tash.
I don't know how you would test that. The only way, I'm thinking from like a scientific perspective, because we're saying that there's certain wavelengths of light that we're aware of. What if there's a whole different spectrum that we have no idea about?
Because we haven't discovered it, and we certainly don't have anything that can confirm and measure it. To let us know that it does exist. Yeah, that's absolutely plausible.
It brings me back to, you know, Isaac Newton about gravity. Nobody really thought about why we didn't float off into space until he saw the effect. So we are seeing the effect of the spectrum. And that might be why we can't make up female, or, you know, we think they're male, but maybe we can't make it out because we can only see a certain amount.
I am absolutely obsessed with the fact that it is all to do with the light spectrum, whether we actually can see it or not see it, or whether we're even aware that light spectrum exists or doesn't exist. All of this stuff is all about the light spectrum. All of it.
I tend to agree with you there, Tracey. And it's an area that science and I won't even put paranormal investigators in there. Like, science just knows so little about that area, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's where the spirits, the shadow ghosts, the paranormal world hang out.
Well, when you're talking about shadows, which brings in light, and you're talking about the fact that dogs and cats seem to be able to see and follow with their eyes manifestations, and we're talking about light spectrum yet again.
Again.
And then we're also talking about how when I saw that shadow person that manifested,
that was
and how it could only be seen when the flashes were going off frantically all at once. And if there wasn't enough flashes going off, we couldn't see it. Again, it's down to light spectrum, and the fact that wasn't captured on the monitors and on the recordings at all, and yet we were watching it through the screen, 3 of us all witnessing it. Again, that comes down to light spectrum, because it was being filmed in IR. And I actually think IR is the worst form of light spectrum to try and capture something in, to be quite honest.
But we've got IR here, and I've never seen anything on it. But I mean,
and you've had things happen that you've witnessed in real time that have not been captured on the cameras.
That hasn't been an IR. It does both. I just realised.
Tony's Tony.
Does he have one of your email addresses? Because we could always snip it and put it up.
Oh, you could just send it. Yeah.
If you emailed it to one of us, we could probably put it up. Caisley, I think of paranormal stuff as we're missing something major, trying to prove electromagnetic exists. I mean, Tesla was doing his head in, trying to prove you can transfer energy from A to B with AC current. How do you explain AC current to people who've never heard of it before? And how can you show the effects of it? So I think shadow people and all the paranormal stuff is linked to that, whether it's light spectrum or energy spectrum. Maybe you're not even in the light spectrum. Maybe it's an energy thing as well. Who knows? But light spectrum is, very... how do you say? It is tied to energy. So maybe we're looking for the wrong type of energy. Or we don't have the devices to pick it up.
I just think that it's definitely tied somehow to the light spectrum, and the fact that we're not seeing the whole big picture of the light spectrum.
To the frequency, the light frequencies. That's the way I'm leaning at the moment. But honestly,
I'm leaning. I've been leaning the same way for decades. Excuse me, for decades, and I'm not coming away from that. No matter, I take on board things and I deviate away, but then I still keep coming back to that same thing, and I can't get away.
At the moment, we only have 2 extremes on our light spectrum. We've got high energy, short wavelengths. And then you've got low energy and high wavelengths.
Let me see if I can pull this up. So I can explain it in a little bit better detail. Or is it in my other one? Where the hell is it? Oh, I know where it is. Hang on a second.
Do you want a picture? I've got a picture.
I've got a picture, but it actually, there's a reason why I want to put this particular one up. Here we go. I just got to find out what. No, it's coming. It's coming.
Like Christmas.
And so is Christmas. So is Christmas.
Are people still with us?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Did we? We're not allowed to ask that question apparently anymore.
Question.
Are you with us? Are you here?
Hello. Is there anybody that wants to talk to us? No, we're not allowed to say that anymore. Just bear with me a second, please, callers. Please bear with me a second. I am just going to try and do something.
Oh, hi. Hi, Collier. We're now into interdimensional theories and talking about light
spectrums
and spectrums.
If my computer would actually like to do what I'm asking it to do, that would be fantastic. No. Okay, now bear with me 1 second, people. I am just going to desktop this for now. Go. And then I will get out of that. And I will get out of that because I don't want to show that. And I will get out of that. And
I'll show you something after you, just to show.
I don't know how good this is actually going to be able to be viewed, but in saying that, slides, image file. I'm just going to pop up an image file.
Where's your synopsis, Tony?
Just talk amongst yourself on my stupid computer.
Shall I put something up while you're doing stuff?
Oh, do it, Tasha.
Do it because my computer's not even doing what it's meant to be doing. It's really annoying me intensely at the moment.
I'm going to share my screen and let's see if we can find it. Wait a minute. Window. And
sorry, Tony. I can't. Sorry, Tony. I can't get it to do what I want.
I'm having. You going to show us, Natasha?
I'm having technical difficulties as
well.
Oh, look! Come on, man. This is so uncool.
I know.
Right. Now
we can just try. I had to doctor it because we might get banned. So if I share the screen, which will be us, and then I go blah blah blah. If I put this one up, can you see there's a diagram of the wavelengths?
No,
I can just see us.
You can just see you.
Us.
Dang it.
The three of us.
And this is a problem that we've had before. But in saying that, stop sharing, because I will share. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen this one. Yeah.
Right. So this is a diagram of the light spectrum that we are aware of.
I was going to say, as we know it.
As we know it at the moment. So on the left-hand side, we've got shorter the wavelength, higher the frequency, higher the energy. And on the right-hand side of it, we've got longer the wavelength, lower the frequency, lower the energy. So we've got microwave and radio. And that dog, shut up, I'm talking. You've got microwave and radio in the low-ended frequency and low energy, which incidentally infrared is next to. And then in the higher energy and the higher frequency, you've got the gamma, you've got the X-ray, and you've got the ultraviolet.
Yeah.
And
I'll show you a similar thing as well.
There has been some good stuff caught with ultraviolet.
Okay.
UV light. So,
short wavelength.
I'm coming back to this again and again and again. And when you look at it, that we're talking about at one end of the spectrum, we've got higher frequency, higher energy.
Yeah.
Shorter wavelength. And at the other end, the longer the wavelength, the less energy and the less frequency we've got.
And I wonder if that is something to do with, they say like, in order to, and this is very new age, and I'm sorry about this, but in order to communicate with spirit, you need to lift your energy and to lift your vibrations. So I'm wondering whether that's something to do with, sort of tied up with that higher energy.
Could be. Although I don't. Yeah.
I've got a picture that shows you the wavelength, but it also gives you an idea where we are and what is on the other like extremes, and it also has temperature. So we'll have a look at that.
Yes, I've seen one like that. So yeah.
Can you guys see that now?
Yeah. We can.
So if we take off the banners, you'll be able to see all the things. So I kind of had to censor a bit around the humans because so I've done that. But yeah, as Tracey was saying, you have high energy, low wavelength, and then you got low energy, high wavelength, and you can see across
and frequency.
Yeah, well, frequency is wavelength. So we, you've got, this is our spectrum as we see it now, or know of it now. It doesn't make sense that we don't have anything outside of that.
Yes.
And to be quite honest with you, if you are looking at, anything, I think in the light spectrum that we know of at this particular point in time, I think we need to be looking at ultraviolet, X-ray, and gamma ray. We need to be looking at that end of the scale and eliminating the possibility of being able to capture evidence of or proof of spirits on that end of the scale. What was that, Barbara?
All right. No, it's all right. The door sort of opened slowly and nothing happened. Oh, okay. Stu's just told me it's because the cat is now sitting in the doorway and won't move. So the door.
But yeah, I think I'm just going to pop that up. I've just removed that. I think that it's at this stage, the ultraviolet, the X-ray, and the gamma ray stage that we need to be looking into, which interestingly, when you're looking at the frequency, is harkering to molecules, atoms, and atomic nucleus, right?
Yeah.
Which I find interesting.
I would love to do that, but actually been working around gamma sources.
Well, I know, but I do.
There's a few health and safety issues to do.
We
with
can
that.
do a little bit of testing with ultraviolet because, in all honesty, it has been used in the paranormal field, but I don't think it's exhaustively been tested enough.
Okay.
And it's also dangerous for your eyes. It's also quite dangerous for your eyes, depending on the wavelength of it. Whether it's
I think it's actually, the cameras that we've got won't be damaging for the eyes. Otherwise, they wouldn't be putting UV on there for us to. Christ, you can't even buy a laser pen anymore, So, I'm pretty sure that will be, and all the UV, all the full spectrums, all the UV cameras. I mean, there has been some pretty interesting captures with UV. It has to be said. So I would like to have a play with that. Hence why I've just bought I've bought that full spectrum camera that you can actually put the UV light on and use the UV light with, so I can have a bit of a tutu.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've used it before, but I haven't captured anything interesting on it.
What we've got to also remember is something's got to be there to be captured in the first place, right? And I think that's what we all forget at the end of the day. Not everywhere that we are going into that we've been told is allegedly haunted is probably even haunted.
Or
And
even if it is, they might not be where we are. You know, if there are spirits or ghosts
Exactly.
there, they could be in the other room.
Yeah. I mean, interesting, you saying that, Barbara, because at one of the events that we did, we had people in one room asking for the light. If you're with us, can you swing the light, please? And actually, in a completely different room, all of a sudden, the light started swinging.
Yeah.
And it was at the exact time that the people in the other room asked for that as a sign that someone was with them. And yet it manifested in a completely different room. And that was it was time stamped on the video, and it was exactly the same time.
It's almost like it's intelligent. Like when you pack up stuff and you're leaving, then stuff happens. Like,
oh yeah,
always,
so
all the
note to
time.
everybody: have at least a voice recorder actually going until you actually get out of the building, into the car, and probably even home, to make sure that you haven't picked up someone and taken someone with you. But definitely, because I tell you what, it's almost like they go, no, don't say anything yet. They're nearly packed up. Wait till they turn everything off and then slam the door. And then whisper in that chick over there's ear. And then they'll do it.
Absolutely. I've had that happen.
Imagine if spirits or shadow people were passed on, how annoyed you would be. You spent all this energy and time to manifest yourself, but unfortunately you're lagging. So you trying to get the energy to manifest yourself and knock and swing lights or whatever, and then everyone just picks up and goes home.
Yeah.
That would be so disappointing.
And then let me bring that, because we've now completely gone off a deep end, as we always do. But let me bring that back to the fact that, hello, I've just lost my train of thought again. I'm so tired after this week. It was something Tash said that triggered something. Oh yeah, and then there's not a wonder that paranormal investigators that have no idea what they're doing misinterpret a frustrated spirit because they've been trying to do stuff all night long and you're not picking up on it, with a demon or a negative entity.
Yeah, maybe.
Just because, I mean, you've got to realize that spirits, what's to say that they don't get frustrated like us? What's to say that they don't get pissed off like us? And so if you've been trying, as Tash said, you've been trying to get these people attention all sodding night and no one's listening to you, and you get that angry that you slam a door, whether physically or metaphysically, with your energy, and then everyone goes, oh my God, that door slammed. Oh, it's a demon. It's a demon. I'm feeling a really pissed off entity in here. This is a negative being. This is a negative being. Well, yeah, I'm a negative being. I've been trying to show you for 8 hours that I'm here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So,
like you're not even listening to me. I'm
totally frustrated.
Yeah. And that's why I was just going to say,
explain like certain teams going in or certain people going in to investigate. They either get a high amount of supposed activity or there's a lull. So could the opposite be true? If the spirit or the shadow man detects a really negative person that doesn't believe in it, but for some reason is doing investigations anyway, could that put whatever entity off for to show itself? So when you split up into different groups, different people get different activity. So you have basically a naysayer. It's like, oh, I never get anything, versus people that capture random stuff that they can't make sense of. Is it more what energy you put out versus what energy the spirit or the entity has? Like,
that's why I really, really like to, if at all possible, stay at the venue after the investigation and actually spend a few hours sleeping there, because it lets any entity that is there, gives them the chance to, if they have been frustrated, if they have not been able to catch up with us, it gives them the opportunity to actually get their shit together and let us know that they're there. And I've had that. I've had it through, just sort of starting to drift off to sleep, and a door will slam, and it's almost as though, they finally catch up. Maybe they are.
Can you not relate that you're drifting off to sleep? Can you not relate that to hypnagogical, hypnopompic?
Not when you've got it, because when you've got your recorder going, when you've got it on audio, you can hear even though I'm going to sleep, I think most investigators do still leave some equipment going. And so, it gives them that opportunity of, we've been trying to get EVPs and whatnots. Hey, here's your ideal opportunity. I'm going to be asleep. Talking to this, you've got plenty of time. Just do it, when you want to.
Yeah, that's a really good response. Hey, Night Tone. We do ask people every time to subscribe, like, and comment and share, and that is definitely the way. But people are gotta do it, which is great.
I agree with Barbara. Like, when I've stayed over in places, I've had video recorders and voice recorders running, which is really fun to look through. Hours and hours of snoring. And
I don't normally do it. Just because of the simple fact that you normally get me, just all I'm doing is talking all night long in my sleep. So I would actually override anything paranormal that is trying to leave messages on a voice recorder. Trust me on that.
They would still get incredibly frustrated then.
Yeah, they're like, shush.
They wouldn't be, honestly, they wouldn't be able to shut me up. Ask Lois. But she says this next investigation, that's it. She's having a recorder going all night so she can capture me laughing and talking to whoever I'm talking to in my dreams.
Okay.
Apparently. But no video cameras, because I do sleepwalk and I do it in the nude.
Oh, really?
If I had my editing software, I could bleed out.
Oh my God. I can say I have not done it for years, and now if I did it, there would probably be ambulances being called for the people that would be violently ill. But I used to. I did it in Scotland once, and I did it. Unfortunately, it was like 3 foot of snow outside, and I went out absolutely stark naked and walked through the village talking to somebody. Yep,
wow.
Walked through the village talking to somebody.
Were you drunk?
Nope.
Just sleepwalking.
Just sleepwalking. And I also did it and walked into one of my shared house roommates' rooms in the nude, and her boyfriend and her were sleeping in bed. And I went into her toilet and I lifted the cistern lid off the toilet and I was trying to fix her toilet. And then I apparently just walked back through her room in the nude again, walked down the hallway and went back to my room. And then in the morning I said, I had a really weird dream about fixing a toilet last night. And she went, oh my God, we were not dreaming. You were in our room.
It could have been worse. You could have sat there and done number twos and then walked back to your room.
I suppose that's true. That's very true. But yeah, it is definitely worth keeping equipment. It's gone again off on a feckin' tangent from
completely,
Mars.
guys. Sorry,
but it's definitely worth going and keeping equipment running while you sleep. And I do like staying on the premises too. I kind of feel like the investigation hasn't come to a natural conclusion if I all finish the investigation, jump in the car and leave the place.
And leave them to it. It's like, no.
Exactly. Anyway, I think we are done, lady. We're going off topic and off on a tangent. So I think it's time to call it a night.
Absolutely.
So next week, we will have UK paranormal investigator Greg Hardman on our podcast, and he'll be talking about some UK haunted locations.
Cool.
So that should be interesting. And then after that, what have we got? We have got another one that we're going to disappear down the rabbit hole on, people. Parallel universes. And
we might have done part of that tonight.
But we kind of touched on this evening. And then,
questions, folks. Ask us questions about that one.
And then last of all, that's the next night after Parallel Universes and Alternate Dimensions, we're taking you on the investigation with us down to our location that we are spending 2 nights investigating, and we're going to take you with us on our very first night's investigation. And so we'll do an FB Live from Ghosts and the Paranormal in New Zealand. So join the group so you can get that, because we can't live stream it via YouTube, unfortunately. Unable to do that because we don't have 100,000 subscribers or some rubbish. Anyway,
you have to have 100,000.
Yeah, they're making it really tough.
Please, if you haven't, please make sure you subscribe, you like, and you comment, because that's how we actually grow this channel. We'd love it that people come and watch, but please subscribe, like, comment, join us, because we need more people to listen. We love chatting, we love the paranormal, but we need for people to listen to us, and we need your input too. Let us know of any topics you'd like us to discuss. Ask questions. We'll do our best to answer them, and we want to hear your stories too. Be part of the podcast with us, folks.
And also, if you're playing one of the episodes and you're starting to find it boring, do us a favor, just let it run right through to the end and go off and do your washing or whatever the case may be. It's just because the YouTube algorithms will see you connect out, cut out of it in the stream, and then it will say, oh, they didn't like that, so then they won't push it out to as many people. So yeah,
I'm currently on the stream.
What's that?
I'm currently on the stream.
Cool. So yeah, like as Barb said, subscribe, click that notifications button, comment, share the podcast around, share the podcast address around. That would be fantastic. Help us out. Get those algorithms pumping. Thank you so much.
Thank you
and
all
we will
for
see you. So, there was quite a substantial amount of people. So thanks so much, guys. Yeah. And we'll see you next week. Same time.
Be safe. Be safe. Have a great weekend, but be safe. The weather's awful out there. So look after yourselves.
Those of you in New Zealand, take care.
Yeah.
And
stay at home, stay alive.
Yep.
We'll find out.
Bye-bye, folks.
Out.